twice actually. That's what it was. So like, and it's one user, it's not like
One of these was a serious problem.
exactly. Could be. Could be. Oh my crap. Isn't that
Hello everyone. Thank you for coming to our Asian American Culture Day. Asian American Culture Club is a club where students of all racial backgrounds gather to connect over Asian American Pacific Islander, or AAPI, experiences. We provide a safe space for discussion on events or topics relating to AAPI communities, as well as bond over films, game, and food. Asian American Culture Club is an annual school-wide event that the Asian American Culture Club plans. Our goal for this event is to amplify AAPI voices and showcase the diversity that exists within our community. We are so excited about the opportunity to bring our school speaker today.
Before we begin, we'd like to recognize the recent multiple acts of violence against different communities of color. We would like to recognize the brutality against Tyree Nichols and the AAPI communities that were affected by the mass shooting at Monterey Park. We, as an affinity group, stand in solidarity with all people of color and communities affected by these and other tragedies.
Our hearts go out to anyone and everyone affected by these tragedies. Thank you everyone here for showing their support against acts of violence. With that, I am pleased to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Cindy Liu.
I'll give a quick introduction. Dr. Cindy Liu is Assistant Professor of Pediatrics at Harvard Medical School and the Director of the Developmental Risk and Cultural Resilience Laboratory at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Her research focuses on culture and socio-emotional development and race and ethnic disparities related to maternal and child mental health. One of her projects is Building Our Bonds Authentically, or BOBA project, which seeks to understand how Chinese American families talk about current issues that affect the Asian American community. Please help me welcome Dr. Cindy Liu. To best respect our speaker, we encourage everyone to.
Hello? Hi. Can we just give another round of applause for the Asian American Club who put this on?
Yeah!
And how many of you liked the music when coming in today? Any? Can we give a shout out to my team over there who put together this playlist? So it's my absolute pleasure to be here at Newton North today for Asian American Day. This was something that I would have never experienced as a high school student, so you guys are so fortunate to have this experience. And what I'm going to do today is share with you a bit about who I am, my journey as a psychologist and a researcher, and my goal is to get you to think more about the possibility of doing and having a career in the way that I've sort of sought, a career that focuses on understanding Asian Americans, understanding mental health. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. And then I'll be talking a little bit about our BOBA project. Before I begin, I know that we started off saying, put away your phones, but I'm going to see it, take it back out. And the reason why is because throughout the time that I'll be speaking, If you have questions, I encourage you to submit them through the Slido. So you can use the QR code here, or you can go to slido.com, slido.com, and enter in the code 6144241. And at the end of the presentation, we will go through some of the questions and I'll try to answer some of them. Okay. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm a psychologist, I'm a researcher, and I'm an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School. I'm located at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and I run the Developmental Risk and Cultural Resilience Laboratory. I'm also a mom, so I believe that we bring our whole selves to work, and that includes me being a mom of 2 boys, and I live in Brookline. So I want to start off by talking a little bit about my upbringing. I was born in Worcester, Massachusetts, but I actually grew up in Minnesota for the large portion of my life. And I was a single child for about the first 10 years, and then my parents had a little girl, my sister. And so she's 10 years younger than me. And by the time I was in 4th grade, I was old enough to really appreciate all the different things that she was learning as she was growing, from being a baby to toddlerhood and so forth. And so this is just a picture of us. And I found it so fascinating to see her grow. I wondered about kids, and how do they even learn how to talk? How do they learn how to read? How do they learn about the world as beings who can't talk, to begin with? And eventually, how do people form opinions about the world? How do we get to where we get to in understanding and interpreting the things around us? And the thing is, back then, I didn't quite appreciate it, but I really liked studying people and getting to know their opinions. And so back then, I would give out surveys to the people who would come over to our house, and I would say, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? And I would put together all of their responses and just sort of stare as if I see them online, just to get a sense of like, well, what is the answer? What kind of pasta am I? What kind of animal would I be? And so I gotta say, I'm sort of addicted to these little quizzes. So I'm gonna put that on hold for a second and just share with you that growing up in Minnesota, I ended up going to the University of Minnesota for college, for undergrad. So it was just about 30 minutes away from home, but I lived on campus. And I enrolled in the science and engineering department. It was basically an engineering school. And I was thinking, yeah, I'll just be an engineer. I have family members who are engineers. I'll just follow that same track. And it turns out that I really did not like lab at all. It was sort of this experience where I didn't see any people, I was working with solvents, I was pouring things here and there, and it just was not all. And so I quickly realized that I couldn't do this for the rest of my life. I couldn't think of having a job, getting paid for this. At some point I was like, you can't even pay me to do this work. And so it was not for me. So I kind of went back and I go, okay, you know what? I need to rethink my major. I cannot major in chemistry or chemical engineering. And so I decided to go to take a psychology class, an intro to psych class. And I was like, I like people, I like kids. I'll take this class and see what happens. So it was this really huge class. It was this lecture hall of about almost 1,000 people at the University of Minnesota, one of their biggest classes. And they didn't even have a professor for the whole course. They basically got a professor for each week. And so there was this week where it was about child development. And this guy, this professor from the child development department comes and he lectures. But the thing is, part of his lectures, he didn't even talk that much. He showed videos of babies. And I was like, dude, is this your job? You get paid to watch videos of babies? This is crazy. I want that job. I can't believe you're getting paid for it. I want to do that. I want to do that. And so essentially, I ended up choosing a major, and I majored in child psychology. So from there, I ended up getting a research assistant position at Stanford, did a little bit more research at the university, studying culture, studying Asian Americans. Again, it blew my mind that you could actually make a career studying people like myself. And so I did that for a year, and then ended up going to the University of Oregon to get my PhD in clinical psychology, because I was interested in learning how to be a therapist. And so, fun fact, our mascot is basically Donald Duck. So it's a fun fact about the University of Oregon. And then later on, I moved to Massachusetts, and I got more training in being a therapist to address mental health, and I worked at Children's Hospital and McLean Hospital. And I should note that at the same time I was getting this training to be a therapist, I was also doing research on Asian American children, families, and mental health. And again, really pursuing something that I didn't even think it was possible that I could study my community. So here's the question. What is a psychologist, right? So, people wonder, do you just have people lay in your office and you just ask them questions about their dreams? And the answer is no. There's a lot of different kinds of psychologists. I don't do this work. I actually do a lot more research than I do therapy at this time. So there's a lot of different professions, different roles that you can have as a psychologist. And then there's also a lot of different professions that focus on mental health. So here's a question for you. What is the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist? Raise your hand if you know the answer. What's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist? So Charisse is going to come with a microphone, and we're going to have you answer the question.
A psychiatrist can put prescriptions in for you, so they have an MD degree.
That is absolutely correct. Okay, so we have a prize for you. Congratulations. We have for you a box of Make It Your Own Boba? What is it?
Yes, a box of 4 different make-your-own boba teas that you can make at home, different flavors, creme brulee, pineapple, whatever. So, yeah, just keep paying attention throughout the slides because we'll have some questions, and if you want to win a boba cake, you'll get one if you get it right.
Yep, so pay attention, folks. All right, you can make 10 drinks through that kit. Can we give a round of applause for our Congratulations. Okay. So fast forward, I am now at Brigham and Women's Hospital, which is right across from Harvard Medical School. And, I wanted to have that job to watch videos all day. And this is my team. And we actually do this. Okay, so it is my job to watch videos of families, of people who give their responses. And I have a team at the hospital that works with me to do this. And so what exactly do we do? Just to give you an example, this is a study that I started shortly after the pandemic. It's called the Peace Study. So as you recall, I'm really interested in babies and toddlers and moms, and so we sought to get 2,000 responses from mothers who had just given birth during the pandemic. And we had them fill out surveys, and then we decided to follow up with them. So now their babies are not so little anymore. They were 9 months, now they're toddlers, and we are actually filming them through Zoom. So we record sessions where they play together, and a question that we're trying to ask is, does the mental health experiences of these women who gave birth during the pandemic, is that at all related to the way that they engage with their babies and the ways in which their babies grow? So that is just one example of the work that we do. Mental health, youth mental health, is also another area of strong interest among our team. And so, these statistics may not surprise you, but youth mental health, we're in a crisis right now. And as you can see, more than 1 out of 3 youth experienced poor mental health during COVID, and 44% experienced persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness during the 12 months. And so we are very much in a crisis, and our group is hoping to address youth mental health at this time. All right, so here's another question for y'all. According to NAMI, what is the annual rate of serious thoughts about suicide among U.S. high school students? A, 52.1%, B, 30.6%, C, 18.8%, D, 10.1%. All right, so annual rate meaning in the past 12 months, what percentage of high school students?
I'll go with C, 18.8%.
Congratulations. Well done, you get a boba kit. That is awesome. You guys know your data. All right, so we're going to move beyond youth mental health, right? So all of you know that Asians experience a major spike in the experiences of racism and discrimination. And we saw the signs, the lawn signs, but we've also heard from our communities and neighbors the extent to which people were being victimized and just being really fearful of public spaces, and not just public spaces, but just various microaggressions that might even take place over Zoom. And so this is no joke. This has been occurring persistently over the past few years. And it's really led to this reckoning of not just overt or obvious racism like being attacked, but also casual racism against Asian Americans. And so these are just some examples in which, you know, you might hear of casual racism in everyday life. When it comes to research, we get to study that too. And so during the course of the pandemic, besides the peace study, we also conducted a study on young adults. And there we asked about experiences of anti-Asian hate and its effects on mental health. And what we did see was that the hate associated with being a target during the pandemic was associated with higher levels of PTSD, and that research was actually mentioned and featured in the Boston Globe during that period of time. And so just to give you an example that as researchers, we conduct these studies. Our team works really hard to collect data, to look at it, but we also very much want to disseminate it to the communities because we think that this is also part of raising awareness. Another way in which people raise awareness is simply sharing about their experiences in a testimonial. And so I just give this as an example. My friend Heidi Shin wrote a piece in the New York Times sharing her take on what it means to actually wrestle with the current events among Asian American communities and within the family. And so she began talking about racism with her young child. So, in these conversations, what are we reflecting on? I think for a lot of Asians, this question of what kind of Asian are you is really persistent. These are common experiences, and when you're asked, what exactly are you? But really, what are you? And this idea that maybe you're not Asian enough. So maybe you are Asian, but maybe you're too Asian, or maybe you're not, not Asian enough. And so this is something that Asians really wrestle with. The honest truth is there is really no right way to be Asian American. And in fact, there are so many different Asian ethnic groups here in the US. So as you can see, and this is fairly small print, but we've got up there Chinese being the most prevalent group. We have Asian Indians, Filipino. We also have at the very end here, it's in small print, but it's Okinawan. And so a range of different ethnic groups represented here in the US. So definitely there's a great deal of diversity. All right, so what's your take on this question? What is the third largest ethnic group in the US? Anyone?
I'm going to take from the back this time. So.
All right, go to the back.
All right, I see someone in blue raising their hand, so I'm coming back over.
What is the third largest?
Is it Cambodian?
No, it's not. No, it's not. But really great try. That was a great try. All right, who else?
Is it Japanese?
Good try, but not it. All right, so we've ruled out a couple. It's not Cambodian, it's not Japanese.
Is it Korean?
All right.
Not Korean. All right, keep going. We've ruled out a few.
Does it happen to be the Korean Americans?
No, sorry, dude. No. All right.
Is it Korean?
Third largest
Okay.
group. This is a stumper. Filipino?
Yes.
Got it right.
Say the answer.
We'll never forget that fact. Congratulations. All right, moving on. We talk a lot about Asian representation in the media, in film, movies, television. I put that up, but then we also talk about representation in government as well. It's a huge topic of conversation, but I'll tell you, there's not a lot of conversation among us when it comes to Asian American representation in research. And this is actually really, really problematic. I'm going to just give you some stats on this, okay? This is the overall budget for the National Institutes of Health. NIH, as some of you may know, is a government agency, and they fund research from COVID vaccine to all sorts of different diseases, allergy, mental health, and this is their overall budget. So this is how much they fund Asian American health. It's 0.17%. 0.17% of their overall budget. It's not even a penny. Not even a penny, okay? So this is how much is committed to that budget, despite the various needs from all various groups, but Asian Americans really aren't getting that funding. Here's another statistic. This statistic pertains to the success of research being funded by the National Science Foundation, NSF. NSF is also a little like NIH. It's a government agency that funds research. And what you see here is that researchers of color are less likely to be funded by NSF across the board. It actually turns out that Asians are the least likely. So given these statistics, it's really quite grim. Why would anyone want to do research in this area? For me, that's all I wanted to do. And so it seems really discouraging. And what I'm here to report is that persistence matters. And so at this point, we actually have a study on Asian American communities here in the Massachusetts area, and it's our BOA study. We actually got 2 NIH grants to study, in particular, Chinese heritage parents and their teenagers. So we just started this work. And why do we call it the BOBA study? The BOBA study, BOBA stands for Building Our Bonds Authentically. It's our project mission. It's something that I've really been passionate about, which is using research as a way to facilitate connection between families, but also across families and communities as well. So these are just a few of the members of our BOBA team, and there's a couple of folks here with me today. They're Charisse and Jamie, and as you can see, they have their favorite boba drinks listed here. If you go to our website, we also say a bit more about our research team on the boba project and a little bit more about who they are. But what do we do in the boba project? So going back to my sort of obsession with asking questions and learning about people and how they think, we do that in the boba project as well. Just to give you a sense, we ask teenagers to complete surveys on their phone or on the computer. And it looks a bit like this. So this is what our research team spends our time doing. We actually look for different surveys that do a good job of assessing the things that we care about. So these things may range from your opinion on race, experiences with discrimination, what your school is like, and we just are very curious about what your perspective is and just really your stories. Just getting your voice and increasing your representation in research. So this is just one example of doing that. Another way to get and to learn these stories and perspectives is to directly ask you what they are. And we do this by asking parents and their teenagers to do a Zoom session with us where we essentially facilitate a session and ask questions. So it's very similar to what you saw in our slides, sort of, what do you think? What would you do? And we ask this of parents and teenagers with respect to their Asian American identity. So this is what it would look like to take part in something like this. So again, very much consistent with my interests. Back when I was in college, I watched videos of children and families. I said I wanted to get paid for that, and I am getting paid for that right now with this work that I do as part of my job. In order to conduct research, we also have to really engage community members, right? And that's where funding comes in. When the funding is minuscule, it's really difficult to engage community members. They don't get to hear about the research that is taking place. That is so important. to be able to do to increase representation. And so we're so thankful to be able to honor our research participants and honor those who help spread the word. But with participants, the various activities, including the surveys, including talking with their family members and taking part in that, they all receive some incentives, including gift cards, but also little prizes as well that's boba related. And so this is our way to thank our community for taking part in our research and just being partners with us in understanding the various needs that the community has. I won't say too much about this because we'll provide more information, but for those who are of Chinese heritage and who are 12 to 18 years old, you're eligible to take part in our study. And so we have more information for those who think that they're eligible. We can give you more information about that. As part of outreach, this is something that I've really never done before in research, which is to use social media as a way to share information about our work. And so if you actually want to learn more about about our project, you can follow us on Instagram, and there's a link tree that has links to all the different activities or different pieces of information about our project. So feel free to go ahead to the Boba Project, BWH, on Instagram. I want to say a little bit about, again, the importance of the youth perspective, because this is something that as researchers, we study people, but then we don't ask them how to best do it, which is really kind of strange, right? We should really ask people, if you wanted us to support you in any way, to bring resources to you, to help improve various aspects of your life, like what would be the best way for us to actually do that? And I will say that the most neglected voice in youth mental health research is actually the youth. And so we've long known about this, and so what we've sought to do is actually create a youth advisory board as part of the Boba Project. This is actually new for me, but it's been perhaps the most fun and fulfilling part of our job. And so the Youth Advisory Board is an experience in which, if you apply, you can help advise our research. And there's more information that we'll have as you walk out, but the applications are due February 13th. And actually, if you have questions, you can ask me, but you can also ask Charisse, who is our director of the Youth Advisory Board, and she's right over here. So hopefully the Boba Project is a helpful example for all of you to think about how you someday can actually start a project, start getting involved in research. If I can convert just one of you to doing research or to do something in mental health, I would have done my job. And so we're gonna end with this. The Boba Project stands for Building Our Bonds Authentically, and it's located at the Brigham. Where and when did the boba drink originate?
We're going to the right side. I know you guys have been neglected, so we're coming over. Okay. All right.
Stand up.
Taiwan, 1980s.
You got it. Congratulations. All right. So, do you think we should do the bonus question?
Yes.
All right. We'll do one more question. All right. It's not going to be for the outside. We'll do a bonus question, okay? So this is the last one. This was the year of the rabbit. What is the zodiac animal for next year's Lunar New Year?
All right, I see you in the front.
Dragon.
That is
You
it.
got it. All right. Congratulations for getting the last prize. All right, so we're gonna take just a question or two from folks out in the audience. Charisse, any questions from people?
Okay, someone asked, how do you decide what to do, what you do?
Say that
So how
again.
do you decide what kind of projects you want to do? How do you decide where you want to go in terms of psychology or research?
This is the really great thing about my job, is that I get to choose. And it's really driven by what I care about. And if you hear about what I've shared, I am sort of interested in my own experiences. There's something called research is me-search. And I don't deny that research can be a way for you to really pursue things about yourself, about your family, about the things that you care about. And it's actually a great thing to do, to pursue the things that you care about, because you'll do your job better. So I choose what I want, and I've always been interested in children, families, and in enhancing their well-being. I think youth mental health has been relatively newer for me, but given the data that has been out there, increasingly many people have feel compelled to address that issue. And for me, I wanted to identify a community that meant a lot to me, to be able to understand their experiences. So, yeah.
Another question we got is, what is it like working as a researcher? What's the hardest part? What's the best part?
Yeah, what is it like? I absolutely love it. I do a little bit of everything, quite honestly. I give talks. I sit down at my computer and I analyze data. I write papers. I talk to the media about what we find. I work with our team and we sit down and we go, okay, how do we set up a survey? What do we include in the survey measures? What items do we ask? How do we ask it? Does it even make sense? We need to consult with somebody else. And I also do a lot of learning as well. So I attend conferences and listen to other presentations, and I do a lot of mentoring. It's one of my favorite aspects, which is to train the next generation of researchers.
Okay. Another question, what's your favorite boba drink?
Okay, my favorite boba drink is passion fruit tea with the light tea jelly. Is that anyone else's favorite drink? Yeah, anyone?
Got approval. All right, another one. How do you implement your research into action?
Great question. I will tell you, I never got trained for that. So no one really trains you how to actually translate your research into action. And so the traditional route, and the route that I still take, is I analyze the data, I write it up, I submit it to a journal, I hope that they like it. If they like it, they'll accept it and publish it, and then it's in a journal. And then what? So this is a huge problem. If my goal is to try and address a mental health crisis, it can't just sit in a journal. And so this is where I work with the community, and I ask various people who are a bit more expert in policy, in practice. So I work with colleagues who are therapists, who they actually see patients, which I don't do during the day. I talk to them about, like, how would this look in an intervention? How can you take this and actually change somebody's experience? Policy is huge. How do you take these findings and actually change the law so that people have to make changes in their respective organizations or institutions? So there's a lot of partnerships that I engage in to be able to do that translation.
All right, another question is, can you consider broadening the BOBA project to include non-Chinese Asian Americans?
Oh yeah. No, this is sort of my pet peeve. So absolutely. I think that if you saw sort of our strategy here, it's about facilitating conversations. So it's not limited, it should not be limited to one group. Quite honestly, all of you, from whatever background that you come from, having conversations about mental health is so key. We talk a lot about it, but the question is, how do you actually do that in a way that's not awkward or cringy or whatever, right? That's actually effective, that actually changes attitudes of those around you. So it's not limited to Chinese people or just to Asians. I will say that in terms of funding, funding is a limitation. And so for our project, we were able to get funding for Chinese heritage families. But I am hoping to be able to raise money or to apply for grants that would allow us to expand beyond that.
Okay, and then someone wants you to speak a little bit on intersectionality and how that might affect either your research or ways that teens can access mental health support.
Yeah, absolutely. So for individuals who are minorities, who double minorities, who aren't just Chinese, but also have another minority identity, sexual gender minorities, and so forth. It's very complicated because you're experiencing what we refer to as sort of like a double minority stress. And for that reason, you might not feel like you fit, even in a therapy situation or a therapeutic program. And so that is a really huge area that is literally unaddressed with respect to a lot of the projects that are funded by NIH. But it is actually, it's promising that there's more funding that's being committed to looking at that in particular. In our project, we actually have the criteria eligibility for Chinese heritage, but we don't have any other exclusions. And so what that does, because we're hoping to enroll hundreds of Chinese heritage teens, it gives us an opportunity to really take a closer look at what it means to be Chinese or Asian, but also having another minority identity. So we're really excited for that. And my collaborator from New York, she's actually, her expertise is in intersectionality, so we're hoping to do more in that area.
Great, and then one last question. So speaking on funding, someone asked, how are grants for research selected since it seems pretty biased?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty competitive. And actually, that'll be our last question. It's a good one. So it is, is it bias or what have you? It's really about the people on top making those decisions. Who are they? So we really have to think through, and can we promote individuals who can actually create those budgets? And it's a huge problem, and I know that NIH and Congress are aware of it, but the thing is, it comes back down to who you vote for. And so as youth, you don't get to vote until you're 18, which is a shame, but your voice matters, and any way in which you can actually advocate for very selected officials, for being able to identify those who would actually care to create a bigger budget, to put in an infrastructure where the individuals there's representation at all levels, including the people who make decisions about grants. So that is very much that's a really great question and a major need. I just want to thank you all for coming to our morning session. And one thing that I do want to let you know is that we have some more information about the VOGA project. In the back, there is a table set up, and so there's the QR code. You can grab it if you weren't able to grab it off the slide. But also, we have a souvenir sticker for all of you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to the Asian American Club.
Thank you all for coming and joining us today during our 8th Vlog of Asian American Culture Day. And we look forward to seeing you all during Asian American Culture Night on Saturday, May 6th. If you are interested in joining AACC, we meet Tuesdays during Tiger Block in room 353.